Man, I would love to see Agatha and the entire team in Halloween Town. I know that sounds a little crazy.
You're writing your own fan fiction right now, but we get
But subscribe to my Patreon, just mine only for more information on that. No, I think there's so much that can be done. And Agatha All Along, again, we've seen the first episodes, but what you're getting is something that is so unique, so fun, and like you were saying, Anthony, it feels so far removed from the MCU that it is really its own standalone thing, and that's the best thing going for it.
Hello and welcome to the movie podcast review of Agatha All Along. My name is Daniel. I'm one of your hosts today, and joining alongside me today in the movie podcast coven, it's Shahbaz.
Hello. How you guys doing?
We're doing good. We're doing good. You know, I'll be honest, I was expecting a bit of a witchy voice, but you held back.
You were expecting something like this.
There it is. That is the exact voice I was expecting.
Yeah, I know. I didn't want to give it to you right away. I wanted a little bit of a build-up. I wanted to get there eventually.
How did you feel upon releasing that into the world?
I felt good.
Good. Because that's all that matters.
Yeah.
And the other lovely voice that you have not heard yet, it is Anthony. Hello, Anthony.
Hello.
It is so good to be here talking about Agatha All Along. It's crazy to think that we are almost at the end of September because I feel like we just blinked and now September is nearly over. We've been busy with TIFF. We've been busy with Comic-Con and D23 and all that fun stuff. But now we're going full into the season of the witch, into the spooky season. Any spooky season traditions that you guys love doing? Shay, I'll start with you.
I typically just dedicate a lot of October to watching movies that are very horror related. It's also a very busy time in the year for my family. Like a lot of our birthdays, my birthday included, anniversaries, they all fall within October. There's like, I don't know, like at least like 10 major events that like I will be involved in for October, and also this is the first October for me and my wife, so she loves horror movies as well. So I'm sure we're going to be dedicating a lot of time to watching as many horror movies as possible, so that we can have some fun.
Nice. I look forward to reporting back on seeing what horror films you watched, because we also did miss some horror films this year. I know we've covered a lot here on the show, but there are definitely some that we just weren't able to cover because how busy we were. But I'm really excited to see what you watch. Anthony, how about you? Any spooky season traditions?
Nothing like crazy. I don't really decorate the house or anything like that. It's just movies most of the time.
I mean, that's just how we are 24/7, 365 here on the movie podcast. Like I said, this is our review of Agatha All Along. I want to say a huge thank you to our friends at Disney Studios Canada for inviting us to watch the first 4 episodes. We will be staying spoiler-free today on episode 3 and 4. We may reveal a little bit more in episode 1 and 2 as those episodes are out now on Disney Plus. So just a little bit of a warning there. Now, of course, if you're new to the movie podcast, hello, welcome. We're so happy to have you here. We have reviews, interviews, discussions all throughout the week that you could never miss because we have so many of them. If you want to follow us on socials, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Letterboxd, wherever you are, the movie podcast is there. And if you want to keep the discussion going, check out our show notes below. You could follow us on Discord. You could join our Agatha All Along room, our coven that we'll be creating on Discord, talking all about the show week to week. You do not want to miss that. And of course, if you want to see our lovely faces, if you're watching this on YouTube, you already are seeing our lovely faces. Look at us. Look at me. Look at Shay. Look at Anthony. We're beautiful. We're so happy to be here with you. Make sure you subscribe, leave a comment, let us know what you think of Agatha All Along, and make sure you check out all of our interviews. We have the casts of this show here on the movie podcast that you could go check out our lovely in-depth discussions with them. We had a nice amount of time with each of them, and even Jac Schaeffer, who is the showrunner, Joe Locke, and of course, you know, the Queen Witch herself, Kathryn Hahn, who was absolutely lovely to speak to. Go check out our interview. Shay had a great time talking to Kathryn. You do not want to miss it. Of course, like I said, the first 2 episodes of Agatha All Along are out now on Disney Plus, and we'll be releasing new episodes weekly. What I really love is that the last 2 episodes will be releasing right before Halloween. So this truly is a show that you will be watching for the spooky season. Let's get right into it. Shahbaz, start us off with your first reaction to Agatha All Along. I wanted to sing it really bad, but I held back.
Leave all the singing to me. I will sing the entire part of my reaction, but I will sing it as a spoken word. So there won't be any singing at all. No, it's Agatha All Along. It's exactly what I wanted. You know, it's kind of funny because we watched the show kind of like towards like summertime. We were watching it in August, and I was like, oh, I'm still in summer mode right now, but I really don't mind it if it gets to that fall spooky season feeling where we're just kind of with our blankets, we've got the fire going. I mean, I don't really be like fires in the house anymore, but it's just that vibe that the show was bringing. And as we're getting closer and closer to it, I'm getting more and more excited for the show to finally come out because it's a very spellbinding show. It's got a lot of laughs, a lot of pop culture references, and you're seeing that through the entire marketing campaign of it. You're seeing that with all the different names the show had when it was coming out. But what I love so much about it is that it has some of the best music in the MCU. And I'm talking about some of the most banger songs. And I did not peg this show to be such a banger musical. I did not, like, I mean, I know that Agatha All Along was a phenomenal song, but did I expect this show to kind of go down that road? No, I didn't. And I'm happy to be wrong. There's a lot of fantastical things that happen in it. It can get very scary. It can be very intense, but it also can be very light and funny. And Jac Schaeffer, who's one of the main brains behind this show in WandaVision, really has created something that is so unique. And I absolutely was falling in love with it. My wife loved WandaVision a lot, and it was one of those shows that she kept going back to rewatch. I think she's watched it more times than I have. And just kind of getting her excited about Agatha All Along, she's just like, I can't wait to see Kathryn Hahn. I can't wait to see this witchy kind of experience. And the show does a really damn good job of that. The first episode alone, I think, really confused me initially because we're kind of getting in this, it's almost like this weird FBI kind of crime show that starts with, and I'm like,
I felt like True Detective.
Yeah,
right?
I felt like, so lost, or like Criminal Minds, even, you know, like
or Mayor of Easttown,
Mayor of Kingstown, you know, all of them. It's just such an interesting show because we're getting into it, and I'm like, what is going on? Did I miss something? Like I felt like at the end of WandaVision, this is not what was happening. But when the show starts to really unpackage itself and unveil itself, you're going to be hooked. You're going to be grabbing your coffee cup. You're going to be sitting there tightly, wrapped in your blanket, watching it because you're not going to want to look away. You're going to be hooked. The show is so funny. Kathryn Hahn is fantastic. Aubrey Plaza is really great. She isn't in it as much in the first two episodes, but I'm telling you, when the show starts to kind of pick up, her reasoning and why she's there really comes into play. It got me interested in learning more about witch lore because I think witches and covens and everything have been so like scary, and I'm not saying that they're not in the show, but they've always been such a taboo topic. I really wanted to learn a lot more about witches and just kind of study them and see what's kind of their history. So this show really got me interested in that.
I think when we went back to like that episode of WandaVision where we learn about, you know, going to Salem and everything that happened with Agatha back then, that was really a taste of what this show is going to be. And we know that we're going to get more of that based on the trailer that we've gone for Agatha All Along. But we know that, like, as much as we love Elizabeth Olsen as Wanda Maximoff, she hasn't been that witch, you know what I mean? She's not a witch like Agatha is a witch or the other witches in this coven are. They're like the true witches. It's like Scarlet Witch is like you're just a tourist in this world, girl. Like, and that's what's really fun to see how you're like, yeah, I would totally get why Agatha hates Wanda. One, she left her obviously under her spell at the end of WandaVision. She took over this whole town, no issues, and she's super powerful. And listen, we love the Scarlet Witch, we love Wanda. But, you know, Agatha is that witch, right? And she's that witch who's just like, I want what's mine. And I think that's what's such a great entry into the show. Is like, you don't need to have watched WandaVision to get into Agatha All Along. Literally, the premise is this witch had her magic stolen from her, and she's going down the witch's road to get it back. That is the setup. You don't need to know 30 other films or any other series. It's a very simple premise. And it reminded me a lot of when we got that first season of Sabrina on Netflix, where it's just like, listen, this is a dark show. This is a show that's going to have magic and witches and demons in it. And you just kind of go along for the ride. And that also came out around Halloween, and that was a great time. But Anthony, please jump on and give us your first reactions to Agatha All Along.
Well, this is Marvel's 13th television series, I think. I counted it right. I was going through the list as like, yeah, this is number 13. And number 1 being WandaVision, which is wild. So they've had 13 different series in the past, 3-4 years?
3.5 years, yeah.
And some of them are, huge hits, and some of them are big misses. With Agatha All Along being a spinoff, I think the biggest series being WandaVision and this being connected to it, there's not a lot riding on it, but I think people are just really excited to go back to this world. And I was super excited because I'm a huge fan of WandaVision. And personally, I had a lot of fun with this series. This series is so disconnected from the MCU that a lot of times I kept thinking, this could just be its own thing. Like, it doesn't even have to be Marvel. Like, it just could be witches doing their living their lives and having this scenario. But it felt like, we have the MCU kind of backdrop behind it, but it's not like that thing that's really in your face, where WandaVision was still Wanda, and Wanda because she's an Avenger and she's had history throughout the movies and being part of like huge teams. With this series, the only time we've ever seen these witches is WandaVision, and other than that, like, they're not being called by the Avengers, they're not being called by anyone. They're just in this world, and I like this element to the MCU because it's so far removed, but it's still connected. And when you have witches, like, you never would have thought, like, what the hell what does Marvel need witches for? And it just fits, like, especially because it's going to be, Halloween season this time around. Like, we're watching this during that spooky season, the Halloween season. I really, really, really enjoyed it. I thought, like, okay, like, I don't have a lot invested into this series. I don't have a lot of expectations. I'm just here for the ride. And this series reminds me of like almost like a Hocus Pocus meets The Goonies, where there's a bunch of witches who gather together, who go on an adventure, and they got to figure their stuff out. When it comes to like just the performances and the act and the story and the acting and the musical elements to it, everything works well. Like, it fits. I'm not here to say like, why isn't this bigger than it should be, or I was reading comments, like, people were saying, oh, well, the writing's not as good as WandaVision. Like, it's about witches. Like, I don't know what you want from this series.
Also, you haven't really seen it yet.
And you again, commenting. A lot of people who comment, yes.
That's the internet, baby.
But yeah, the internet's a big place, and there's a lot of people like playing in that playground. But for me, I kind of was hexed by it. I was like, okay, I'm laughing, I'm having fun. I feel like this is the right type of series for the right season, which is now, even though it's really hot where we are. And we're not in a climate of heat.
We're not. It was
so hot today. But yeah, like 4 episodes in, I was like, cool, this is cool. Like, you got a great story, great chemistry with all the witches, the coven. Joe Locke is really, really good. Like, I think he stands out a lot because his character is so mysterious. And then Agatha just being, or Kathryn Hahn. It's Kathryn Hahn, right? I always get to say Kathryn Hahn and Katherine Heigl. Kathryn Hahn is really good. I think she just really owns this show. She has the acting chops to like really do the funny bits, and then when it needs to be scary or dramatic or really intense, she can pull that off too, which I really, really enjoyed.
I'm right there with you. Like, it's one of those shows that I remember when the trailer dropped, and we were all talking about it. We're like, okay, this is interesting. Like, we'll see what this is going to be. And listen, Kathryn Hahn was really an MVP in WandaVision. Like, she was one of those characters that every week we're like, okay, what's her deal going to be? What reveal is going to be? Is she just a nosy neighbor, or is she something more? And it's funny that all those threads are brought into that. So if you did watch WandaVision, or if you watched WandaVision a million times, like a lot of us did, you would get that. Like, why doesn't she like being called a nosy neighbor? Like, there's little things like that where it's all woven into here. And a lot of the characters from WandaVision, from Westview, appear in this first episode, and that's really cool to see how they're used. Again, there's such a love of television in the DNA of Agatha All Along and in WandaVision, and it's really cool to see how it's really turned on its head here, where you have someone like Kathryn Hahn playing Agatha, who is just trying to find their purpose now, trying to like break the hex that Wanda left her in, right? And I really like this corner of the MCU. It reminds me a lot of like even Werewolf by Night, which was another great departure that felt like this is like its own thing. We're in a mystical, magical side of the MCU, and like I really enjoy staying here because you're also wondering like, what other characters can we kind of start carving out into this Marvel dark universe over here? And it's really cool to see that. But again, like we've all said, I think Kathryn Hahn is incredible as Agatha. This is her show through and through, and Anthony nailed it. When you think of her comedy, when you think of how she could go from a minute or even just on a whim being, this is funny, this is campy, this is I'm being a witch and being fun, and switch instantly to being like, I want what was taken from me, and I don't care who I have to kill to get it. I believe it. And it's so fun seeing her and Aubrey Plaza really go at it in this first episode, because there's such tension between them. You know, they have a history, and there's some actually really scary freaking moments in this first episode, and as you'll see in the episodes to come. And it's really cool when the MCU could be scary. You know, we don't get it too often. You know, we had little glimpses of it in Doctor Strange in 2016 with Scott Derrickson. And then
Wanda.
we got a whole bunch. Yeah, that's where I was going next. And then we got it next in Multiverse of Madness with Sam Raimi coming in and doing his thing. And we really got to see Wanda be scary in that. But I would love for the MCU to fully commit to a horror film, be it with Blade, be it with, you know, whoever characters they want to start introducing into this horror element. It's great to see what they could do with this. And this is one of the best looking Disney Plus shows, truly. There's such an incredible art direction to this show, and it instantly makes you feel cozy but scared. And I want to watch the show with my lights off or with my hue lights on like this, because you feel like you have such a great vibe watching it. And it all comes down to the performances. Obviously, there's an incredible soundtrack from Christoph Beck, from the Lopez's with their original music, but it really is a cool series, and I really hope we get to see more like this from Marvel, because when Marvel is unique, you know, when Marvel is carving their own path, that is when Marvel is at their best. And Agatha All Along is Marvel really being at their best when it comes in the television space. And I had such a fun time watching it. It is the most fun I've had feasting on a show this year. And I really am excited to see where the next 4 episodes are going to go, or just from episode 5, 6, 7, 8 for us. But just the show as a whole, I'm really excited to see where it's going to end off.
And it's cool because these characters that we're introduced to, they're not AAA characters. No Captain America. There's no, you know, Hulk and
what's
Doctor
Captain America going to do in this story? You know,
He'll take a witch on.
Right. Well, I think he can. But I think taking these types of characters is such a risk, right? Like you have no really big establishment other than WandaVision, so you're taking a huge risk on just these witches, and you hope the audience likes it. And they really paid off, because a lot of times when Marvel does these types of things, sometimes they don't pay off. And you think the stories that should pay off don't, like Secret Invasion. So when you get a really fine-tuned plot, a really well-written series that has the musical chops, and it really goes into understanding what these witches mean in this universe, it's amazing to see, because you're like, oh, I didn't think I would be interested in witches in the MCU, but here I am watching it.
And I think now that you have a company like Disney that loves to explore their different intellectual properties, I wouldn't be surprised if down the road, like, they poke a little bit
down the witch's road
with Hocus Pocus, with all these lovely characters that they have. Man, I would love to see Agatha and the entire team in Halloween Town. I know that sounds a little crazy.
You're writing your own fan fiction right now, but we get.
But subscribe to my Patreon, just mine only, for more information on that. No, I think there's so much that can be done, and Agatha All Along, again, we've seen the first 4 episodes, but what you're getting is something that is so unique, so fun, and like you were saying, Anthony, it feels so far removed from the MCU that it is really its own standalone thing, and that's the best thing going for it.
And that's the thing, you know, where this show is going to go. People are going to be, you know, speculating every single week. They're going to be throwing out names like Mephisto. What does this mean going forward?
Mephisto was in episode 4. I will spoil that.
I don't think we can, though.
Oh, because he wasn't, because I'm lying. That's what Mephisto does, because I'm the Mephisto of this group, right?
You are the Mephisto of this
group. Or
am
I?
Yeah.
I don't know. Who knows?
But yeah, so it's like there's things where we're just like, okay, what is this going to lead to? But at the end of the day, I think what Marvel really needs is good stories. It's not always about what is this building to, what is coming next, who's going to show up. Tell a really damn good story. And from what we've gone for the first 4 episodes of Agatha All Along, for me, and what it sounds like for Anthony and Shay, it feels like it's just a really good story. And I really hope they land the plane nicely, because one of the things that we had issues with, especially in that first year of Marvel Studios shows, this is a Marvel Television branding now, even though it's a new branding. One of the issues that we always had was like, okay, here's a great episode stretch. The first episode, you're figuring out what this is going to be. And then it's like episode 2, 3, 4, 5, great. And then episode 6, you're like, oh, that was a bit of a rushed ending or a changed ending. And I know COVID and everything, impacted a lot of things as they were coming out. WandaVision wasn't supposed to be the first show. They ended up being the first show. I really want them to nail the story on this, because I really want this to be a series that we could come back to and put in the rotation, like I do Werewolf by Night when I'll watch that at Halloween, or the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special. I would love for this to be like, you know what? It's starting to get a little cold outside. The leaves are starting to change. Let me put on a show that matches the vibe of the season. And that's exactly what Agatha All Along is. It's the perfect spooky season show. It's so fun to watch. And again, you have such an incredible cast of characters. Kathryn Hahn is just so deliciously devious throughout all of it, because like we all said, she has this ability just to be so charming, to be so evil all at the same time. And you just eat that up. It's so fun. Let's get to our final reactions. Shahbaz, start us off with your final thoughts on Agatha All Along.
Grab a hot cup of cocoa, sit down with your jacket, or not jacket, sorry. Sit down with your, what are they called? Blankets? God, why am I blanking on blankets?
I don't know, dude. Have you
Blanking
used a blanket before?
I'm not sure what those things are. I sound like an alien now. I sound like someone took over my body and they're like, blankets. Tell them the blanket. Grab a hot cup of cocoa.
Still get it.
Take a blanket. Have just the vibes in your house for fall and have a great time at the show. I guarantee you every song will get stuck in your head, and it's not a bad thing. Sometimes these earworms are necessary for us to continue living our lives. But yeah, just have a great time. Kathryn Hahn, Joe Locke, the entire crew will absolutely keep you laughing, keep you scared. And there's a lot of great twists and turns that the show comes with down the witch's road, that will surprise you, I think, where it's going to be going.
It's really exciting. I'm right there with you. Do all the things Shay said. Definitely not Alien Shay. You're going to have a great time with Agatha All Along. It's a perfect show for the spooky season. It's a great story from what we've seen so far, and I cannot wait to see where it's going to go. And honestly, there's some pretty scary shit in this show. So just be ready for Marvel to scare you. Make Marvel scary. Like, we want more of these, like, this side of the Marvel universe, and I really hope that this is the entry. This is the summoning circle of more scary stories in the Marvel universe. Anthony, take us on home.
Agatha All Along does a really good job of getting that scare and humor together, and I think it's wickedly fun. I think it's a great series to watch during the Halloween season, and I think you'll be bewitched by it. I know there's so many witch puns in there that I had to get them all out before I wrap up this episode.
We'll see if we can fit one more in before the episode's done. Huge thank you again to our friends at Disney Studios Canada and Marvel Studios for inviting us to watch these episodes, to participate in the interviews. We have all of our coverage out now. Please bask in it all. We've worked so hard bringing it to you, and we'll have lots of great videos on our socials throughout the weeks leading to the season finale of Agatha All Along. You do not want to miss it. Thank you again to this episode's sponsor, Exter. Check out our show notes below to see how you could save some money on a brand new wallet. You're going to love it. We do. You probably heard the ad earlier. We threw to it. Don't worry. Of course, the first 2 episodes of Agatha All Along are out now on Disney+. Watch them now. Watch WandaVision. Let us know what you think. Join our Discord. Everything you need to know is in the show notes below, including where to follow us on socials. We have lots more incredible episodes of the movie podcast coming your way. It's been a very busy week, and we have lots more to come. You do not want to miss it. That was This Time with the Movie Podcast, and we'll see you next.